But, you know, I ended up hearing through third parties, and then from the first party, like both sides of the first party, and she was like, the gal was like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I own it. I think it was fucking great. And I said, you know, if I'd let that happen to me. That sounds like okay sort of experience. But the guy, he's all freaked out about it. Like, maybe just like get over yourself, mate. Someone screamed on you. At least you are getting like fellatio, mate. You know? Enjoy it. You know, that's your fucking DNA in action right there. That's what Halloween's about. Fucking DNA, spreading that, you know, getting screamed on, and, you know, not getting freaked out, because that's like the demons, and Halloween's all about keeping the demons away. And that's why we like dress up scary and stuff, because it was like old times when, you know, people like beat rocks together to, I guess, like, I don't know, they didn't have fucking brains, so they just start beating rocks together. That's all they got to do. Beat rocks together and like shit themselves. Well, you know, they would like get these gourds. They wouldn't really use pumpkins. I know this because I watched a YouTube video about it a while back. Well, they would get these gourds and like carve these cute little faces on them, so kawaii, and put a little candle in there. But candles were really expensive, like wax and all, you know, bee stuff, beekeepers, that sort of thing was that was a real treat back then. So what they made candles out of was like, you know, they get like some lard or something from like a stew, like, you know, floats up to the top, bit of like tallow or something. And, you know, they fold it up into some sort of weird shape because they don't understand shapes. They're just like beating rocks together and going, blah, 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 blah. We don't understand anything. Whoa. You know, like feudal systems, you know, that sort of thing. Halloween, they would make the, you know, candle out of like lard and stuff, and they'd use like a bit of like lint or maybe some hair to make like a wick, and they'd just stick it in the top and set it on fire. So you got like a burning gourd, and, you know, the people would make like a bonfire out of, I don't know, like books or something. You know, anything that's not a Bible. And, you know, they'd set that shit on fire, you know, like illegitimate children go in there and they say, you know, we don't need this anymore. They're a good kindling, this one. And, you know, they'd make a bonfire and, you know, they'd dress up, maybe like wear some masks, and they'd get, you know, just ripped, just fucking 3 sheets to the wind, just utterly pissed. For you Americans, that means drunk. They would get drunk and dance around the bonfire, banging on pots and pans and staying up all night because, like, the demons were going to come, like, the night before All Saints Day, because that's like a holy day, because, you know, saints do really wicked, sick shit to be sanctified. Like, one dude, like, ate worms, and so he's made a saint, you know, because Catholicism makes a whole lot of sense that way. Saints, you know, they do really gross shit, you know, and say like, I do this for God, I do this for my faith, I'm eating worms because I live in a fucking dungeon, and you know, I'm not gonna take their food. Like, they're offering me stuff, they say I've got a real problem. They're like, Joe, why are you eating worms, mate? Like, earthworms are like, they're gross and wiggly, man. We're like offering you fucking shepherd's pie, you know? Just eat some real food. Quit eating worms, Joe. But Joe was like, nah, man, I ain't taking your shit because, you know, you ain't right. And reasons you got me in this here dungeon is not a good reason anyway. And so I'm just going to eat these worms because, you know, screw you guys. All I need is like my faith, my belief, and I won't accept your like whatever. I'm just going to eat worms. And so then he died, you know, from, I wonder what like a worm diet shit would look like. I imagine pretty mushy. Well, like, he died, and then I guess, like, I don't know, like 300 years later, some like pope, some like bishop or something hears about this story, and they're like, oh man, that guy's badass. Let's make him a saint. And we're going to teach little kids about it at the Church of Bloody Precious Blood and Guts of Our Lady, of Jesus's Mother, Catholic school for boys. You know, they would do that sort of thing. And, you know, well, anyway, you know, people banging on pots and pans, fucking, you know, throwing their illegitimate children into the bonfire, and you know, it's keeping the demons away, because the demons will come in on the cold wind and, you know, like take away Annabelle Lee and like ruin this year's crop, because it's harvest time, right? And they got a harvest because a cold, hard winter is coming around, and they don't have, you know, they don't have fucking houses. They just sit outside, and they don't have rocks anymore, because all they got is gravel, because they banged all the rocks together because they got bored. And, you know, that's how Halloween started, to keep the demons away so they could keep the crop together. And, you know, demons come like knock shingles off the houses for people who did figure out you could have one of those things. I'm talking about a house. You can have one of those. So they built those things and, you know, like put shingles on the top for the roof. But the demons would like come around and knock the shingles off and be generally mischievous. And so, you know, the people would, you know, have a rager to scare the demons off. And that's how Halloween started. There's a history lesson for you. Speaking of history, after I left Bristol, I moved to America, to the United States, which is like, you know, it's pretty new. It was the colonies across the pond, you know, because I'm like old-time Englishy. But, you know, I went there and, you know, I moved around a bit, and I ended up stopping in this little town called Bernardsville, in this place called New Jersey.